somebody with lived experience to understand what women with lived experience needs. Maybe. But one thing I'd like to kind of talk to you all about today is Art from the Heart, which is my foundation, which is a 501c3, which is a very hard feat, if any of you know. But the reason Art from the Heart was started is because, as I said, giving birth in prison, my daughter was also the first baby on the E-wing, which was only the third prison in the United States that had the Moms and Babies program. So when you talk about generational trauma and generational harm and oppression, oppression isn't always seen. There's systematic oppression that sometimes you all on this screen are a part of and may not even know. In not harmful ways, but yet sometimes harmful ways, right? So one of my main focuses was to work on the 5.1 million children in the United States whose mother or father's been incarcerated, because we may not even know what that dirtier little boy or girl is going through on that schoolyard. And we've all maybe made fun of the girl with dirty pants or the guy with the curled shoes. You know, we've all been judgmental in this world, right? But as I gave birth in prison, and as my daughter grew up behind the Decatur prison walls, I saw how heavily these kids weren't healing, right? And how much they needed a community for themselves so they didn't feel alone. Also the caregivers, you know, we put a lot of stuff on DCFS and, you know, different programs throughout the state, youth initiatives, but, you know, it really does take a village, and there is harm that these children are going through and our families are going through, even in the communities. You know, I lived in Decatur for 22 years, and if all of us kind of know strategically and statistically, communities where prisons are heavily prevalent are more like sundowner towns, if we know what that means, right? So again, I did this because my pain gave me purpose, and oppression isn't always seen. And not just healing 100 kids or 16 that I'm taking to Chicago next week, but healing my daughter and the problems that I put her through. So with that being said, I'll tell you a little bit about Art from the Heart and what we do. So just some facts, because I like to give facts. I'm a nerd. Children don't have the capability to always express themselves emotionally as adults can. Art is an easy way for children to express themselves and deal with their emotions in a healthy and positive way. So, and I love art too. So I use a lot of networking skills. In Decatur in the summer, this is our third summer, we have programming in the parks where the kids come, and all of the kids, it started with like 15, now we have like 40. Their mom or dad has been incarcerated. And again, statistically, Macon County in Decatur is the second highest prosecuted county in the state for Black males. 1 in 3 children have experienced a mother or father of incarceration here, and just like Cook County, but we're 1/5 the size, right? So 1 in 28 children in America have either had a father or mother been incarcerated, and they're all under the age of 10 as of 2019 study, right? So research suggests that programs that maintain healthy bonds between incarcerated mothers and fathers may help mitigate the harm that is caused by the family separation and systematic oppression, right? So what Art from the Heart does is we hold several events in downstate Illinois where we have snacks and art mediums. We supply stamps and envelopes for the kids to write to mother or father that may currently be incarcerated. We also do a book bag school drive every summer at the end, where I partner with the local dentist office and we get them floss and hygiene. I've partnered because before I was in another life, I was a hairdresser for 10 years. So I partnered with Sally Beauty Supply and got deep conditioning packs. perms, hygiene, because a lot of kids, especially here in Macon County or downstate Illinois or in Bloomington, we got State Farm. The annual income in Bloomington is 74,000. The annual average income in Decatur, Illinois is at 24,000. So, partnering with like Sally Beauty Supply and the dentist office to give them like these back to school bags is something that I learned from Susan Burton in California. She's a CNN hero, and I took a week-long class of hers, and she taught us how to partner. She partners with Disney, Levi's, Lee, and has warehouses of stuff for the women getting out of prison. So that's kind of what I introduced to the community in Decatur. Still living in Bloomington, but I was going to Decatur to do these little summer events. And I know at one time I had told Toy, I said, listen, I love you guys in Bloomington, but your needs are different, and Kara and Vera and some of the other people in the community, they have a lock on their needs. Every community in this state is different. And as Toy said, that's another part of what I do. I create events for the whole map of Illinois. With Illinois Humanities, I've had the pleasure of creating events from Galesburg, St. Louis. We've got one coming up in Bloomington. We've got one coming up in Decatur, so that people can get grants or learn how to apply for grants. Because you all know what Bloomington needs. Kara introduced me to this world, I think Kara, you came in after, but about 7 years ago. And it was like I was doing hair, and then all of a sudden everybody wants Heather here, here, and here. And I'm a carceral expert. So I just kind of bask in that. And I'm just grateful because I know, like, I call him God, but the universe has really blessed me to help other people. So I try my hardest to do my best at it. Also, one other thing, Kara's gonna put a link. We just came out with a book. The book is made by people incarcerated currently and out now, and we got it accepted in 6 prisons. It's a healing art workbook, and you can all get a free copy. Carol put the link in the chat. But this is also something I worked with Illinois Humanities on for a year. So I know it seems like a lot of things that I do, but I'm really just about making this state a better place and giving people the funds and the platform to do what helps their community. Is that sound pretty good? I mean, do we have any questions? I can totally take questions. That's kind of it in a nutshell.
Thank you so much, Heather. I really appreciate it. One of our goals with the McLean County Reentry Council is how can we bring a whole holistic approach to our community? A lot of our people that come home from prison, they know how to get a job, apartment, a significant other, an ID, but how do you get their family involved? And so I think sometimes when you have a loved one that has kids in the community and they're dealing with trauma, or vice versa, you have children that's locked up and you have family out here, how can we reach them? And so, these conversations are not talked about a whole lot. A lot of people don't talk about the trauma aspect of a person coming home from prison. And I think it's very important that we initiate that. So, Heather, I really appreciate you bringing that art from the heart, and hopefully we can transition that on to Bloomington and use some of the information as she put in a link to help this community as we grow. So that being said, we'll open up questions for Heather.
I have a question. So you said that there was an event coming to Bloomington. Can you tell me more about that?
Well, I cannot really tell you much more about that. I'm not really supposed to, but I can tell you that I believe Vera and Kara will be look, Kara blink like, wait a minute. No, but Vera, it's coming in the fall. It'll be sponsored by Illinois Humanities. We're looking to partner to have a community-based open house there and kind of work on a partnership with bringing everybody in. We've asked Vera to kind of spearhead the lead on getting some planning done. So that's really all I can say. And it's coming in fall.
Yeah, just let Vera know I'd love to help.
Anybody else?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have a question. This particular subject really hits home with me, and one program or a group of people that I'm not quite sure about are help with children to facilitate visitation with their parents when they're incarcerated. Are there people or programs out there that do that?
It's through the org I worked for 5 years. It's called WJI, the Women's Justice Institute. They do what they call the reunification ride. But again, because geographically and historically, like I said about the prisons, usually the women that are able to get the visits, majority are Chicago based. They take the buses from Chicago down to whether it's Decatur or Logan. Now, we're working on other things, but it's been years. It's been 13 years since this is the only one that they've been able to have. 13 years ago, they closed the Women's Treatment Center, which was the only place where women could actually live with their children after prison. But one of the reasons I'm coming on as a director is to utilize the 7 houses that we have throughout the state for more reunification. But currently, that is the one that I know of that's active. Also, you can refer to the Mapping Your Future guide for resources, because in McLean County may be a little bit different. Project Oz does not do that. I love that I'm meeting you, but I really feel like that would be where they could get a state contract and it would be great, but that's not my place, right? But you know, for McLean County, I would say pitch that idea. You know.
I do have a question for
Yeah,
you, Heather.
it's something that
Go ahead, Langston. Go ahead,
something
Langston.
that for a long time. I can, children like downstate, to see their parents in prison serving long sentences, especially since a majority of the Illinois state prisons are filled with people from Cook County. So I can understand that. But I'm even kind of like leaning more towards like locally, even with the county jails, when someone's arrested long before they get to prison, like there's a lot of times just snatched away from kids. That's where the change starts. And so it's weighed on my mind for so long, a way to help facilitate some children who don't have the resources or people to take them to visit parents internally in the home or in the family dynamic, programs or people that take that and continue that bond, even while people are fighting cases. There are people whose parents are snatched away from them and they end up fighting an entire case, are in the county jail for 2 years and are found not guilty. And they go home, but there's still a lot of trauma there that happened in that scenario.
You are so right. And one of the reports that I made for the governor has the circle of reclaiming your narrative. And it starts even before the county jail in the court processes. Now, McLean County has babysitting for people when they go to court. No other counties in the state have childcare in their courthouse. But if you think about that, my opinion is that is still kind of like prison to pipeline. Let's say we arrest you. Well, now DCFS is right here at the courthouse to pick that child up. That's just my thought with my historical knowledge, but it's also a nice thing that they do. right? But if you go to this report, it'll show where it starts with court systems and then jails. What I would suggest, because my business mind comes in, is finding out at the McLean County who beside DCFS could do these visits. Because when you have state funded contracts, they do the minimal because they're overstaffed, just like prison guards, right? So one of the reasons that I'm highly sought after into this work is because I look at other narratives and other ways to get the money for us to make these programs. So your ideas are super valid. What we would have to do is look at the systematic wardens of McLean County, who's allowed to go in there, and who else beside DCFS can do the visits. Because in Decatur, they have youth advocate, Webster Cantrell Hall. McLean County doesn't do that. And I'm gonna be honest with you, Project Oz didn't do anything for my daughter. As a matter of fact, they dropped her off 45 minutes away in a different town and did not help us at all. So, you know, every idea that you have, it's just finding the people that can give you the yeses. And, you know, McLean County is different. It's very different. And it's not different in a bad way, but it's navigating the people you know in your space to get the needs you see needed assessed and putting those partnerships together. But you're totally valid, Langston. I mean, valid.
I have one more thing, and then I'll hand it over to somebody else. I just thought of something, you guys. The McLean County Jail doesn't even really visit in person anymore. It's all set up over apps and Skype. But here's the problem: a lot of kids, a lot of families, doesn't mean they have, you know, the devices, the internet. You know, if we're sitting here with people from the library, and all of that, like, why don't we look into, you know, then you don't have to have people approved to go into the jail. And I don't think there's as much red tape if there could just be access for visitation to be set up for children, and maybe even some of those fees to be waived, because it costs money to do it. Now you can't just go visit your family. Like, you have to have money to pay for these visits over Zoom or Skype or whatever they call it. It's set up. You know, we can talk all about this later, guys, but I hope we just planted a seed.
And one thing I want to piggyback on, Langston, is historically all the way back from Alabama, from starting with before even felonies, okay, when people get arrested for jaywalking, you know, poverty is heavily prevalent in the jails and prison system. And there are companies like Securus and people out of California that make a lot of money off contact and communication between families and loved ones in prisons and jails. So also, one thing I want to make very, very clear: kids need a mom's touch. Seeing somebody on Zoom or Skype, and one of the reasons I fight the way I do is because a woman by the name of Miss Fitzer just recently retired, 24 years of programming. For 3.5 years, I only talked to my daughter on the phone once every 3 months because my family couldn't afford that. So that's why I have things like the tools that you guys can use, like healing workbooks, like being able to send the caregivers and the kids to Art from the Heart. But these seeds do need to be planted because I'm living proof. And my daughter is living proof. And there's some links that they're going to send you. You can see my daughter's now in Teen Vogue, but she's honest about how she was not helped in the past 20 years as well.
Thank you. I think, Bethany, did you want to come on and share what you put in the chat box?
Sure. I just wanted to share, like, I am the case manager here at McLean County Jail, and we do have in-person visits. It's not all through apps and Skype and like that. People do actually come into the building. That's actually how most of this visits are done. It is through a screen process, just because that's the way the building was designed to prevent contraband and things like that coming in, but that doesn't cost anything, and that is available to them to use. And when it comes to minors, Anyone under the age of 16 has to be with either their custodial parent or someone who's deemed guardian. So a lot of times grandparents and things like that will bring them in because they have temporary guardianship of them while they're here. We have notaries here that will help them fill out that paperwork and things like that if that's something that they need to arrange to make sure that that can be handled. It doesn't have to be just through DCFS.
Thank you
That's
so
awesome.
much.
So can I
thank
have
you,
a
thank you.
follow-up question real quick for that for Bethany?
Yes, Kevin.
I'm just curious, so Langston was referring to some costs associated with digital visiting and that might be a barrier for some individuals that can't afford those costs. I'm curious if you can speak to those costs at all, what they may be.
So if they do, I'm pretty sure they haven't changed the price. It's $7.50 for a visit if it's not in the building. Like if they don't come to the building, say if like grandma from Southern Illinois does it online that way or something like that is what costs. And that's just because we have to use a third-party vendor. So that's what they charge to have that service for us. But if they come to the building, there's no cost at all.
No, ma'am. You may have never been poor, but transportation is definitely a cost. My grandma is 91 years old, and I know McLean County is better than Decatur. But in order for my 91-year-old grandma, or back then 71-year-old grandma, to take my child to visit me in a jail, it costs her to get there. So there are financial costs like bus passes. There's maybe Uber, gas, getting that child ready. There are more costs than just you. And please don't take this personal. This is widespread. McLean County is way more advanced than other counties, but there are definitely costs for the family to get there for a visit.
Oh, and I 100% agree with that. And that's one thing that I fight as the case manager. However, I'm just talking about for use of app or for the visit itself. Like they're not going to charge additional for that when you come here. But yes, and that's why I try to hook people up with like even resources for their family for like bus passes and things like that to help try to offset some of that. And then our trustees and other people, I know that they get some offsite visits free as some of their perks. Sometimes our pod workers do that kind of thing too. And I know that sergeants have had the ability to do that occasionally for some people that are in need as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is. And so that's why we having these, that's why this council was created, so we can have these conversations, because, you know, those barriers that you guys are talking about, people go back to prison because of those barriers. They don't have access to that. So a lot of people that are coming home, they go back to what they know because of these barriers that keep them from getting the things they need. So those services people may not know about. So and that's why we have these conversations, because they're so important. Thank you, Bethany, for being on today to clarify that. You know, I know for me, I go up to the McLean. I'm a jail minister at the McLean County Jail, and I go up there once a month. And you know, sometimes the guys have conversations with me about different things that cost and things like that, you know. And so I try to bring those things back and talk about those things in the communities of how can we help break those barriers so we can be able to help our individuals that's incarcerated, plus families too.
Well, and one thing, Toy, we did a learning session with the head of the Normal Police Department about 3 years ago. And he shared with me, he said, Heather, do you know 78% of the women that come in the Normal jail in Normal are there for petty thefts of hygiene products? You know, because that's mostly centered where the students are, but it's also some poor people in Normal, and that's what they're being arrested for. And I told him absolutely no, I had no idea, because Normal is one of more progressive, you know, cities, you know, because of the college. And I couldn't believe that when he told me that. So
yeah, thank
I
you.
will-
Thank you.
Can I say the Normal Public Library just got a grant to add feminine products for the public, free.
Wow.
Thank you, Michelle. Anybody else?
Toy, this is Melissa. I
Melissa.
guess, I just wanted to lift up, I think one of the challenges is also that, people inside are not aware of all of the different services. And so I think that, as a council, we can think about strategies, whether we are, partnering, when there are opportunities to go inside to socialize this information and piggyback on existing events. But I also wanted to lift up about how we can coordinate with IDOC on some of the, they're doing like these reentry calls, like quarterly. Like I know, we've been invited as the FI last quarter. We're going to be going back to do a WebEx at the end of this month on May 31st. And I'm wondering about, there have been these different efforts like the Inside Out network, and again, some of these like reentry, like mapping your future, and the reentry rooms in some of the institutions, but it does not seem to be coordinated. And I wonder if we can lend our voice to really trying to get some clarity and transparency from IDOC of like, how are they socializing this information as people are coming home? What are things that we can do, collectively? Again, if it's like to carve out a little part of like events that when we run them, and we're running them only in, I shouldn't say only, blessedly in 3 institutions, but like there's so many more people that need information, and we want to bring more of the service providers in to like partner with us on our events and give information. So one is like, how are they working with us to make that happen? And kind of dovetail to that is, how are they supporting people with lived experience to get inside the institutions to provide this information, because there's not always that access given, even though people are doing the work. And so I think we as an advocacy community need to think about like, not just, sharing kind of this information here in this forum, but like, how are we taking it the next step further?
Awesome. Thank you, Melissa. And that's one of the McLean County Reentry Council goals is, as a matter of fact, we're in the process of building packets together. So with DOC, because DOC, they're part of this council too, and so is McLean County. But we're in the process of building packets. And so we're going to be working with DOC to find out if they can identify anybody that's coming to McLean County. How can we get them the information before they leave? So a packet of information on, the felony-friendly employers, where they can get bus passes at. And then two, as a council, we're in the process of trying to have some of those things themselves. So we're in the process of, once we become a 501c3, is to provide bus tickets, money for IDs, Uber cars, clothing. So we're, as a council, we're in the process of working through that so we can cut a lot of that red tape. So if individuals come to us and say they need the bus pass, we don't want to have to go to all these different agencies to find out who got free bus passes. We're in the process of having that. Same thing with clothing. Somebody come with clothing, how can we get them a Walmart card to go buy them clothing or go clothing with them? So we're in the process of doing a lot of those things right now. We just kind of stuck right now until we get that 501c3 to do a lot of those things, to break a lot of that red tape. Because
not really, Toy. I always tell you, you can get a grant from Illinois Humanities without that 501c3. And it doesn't take anything but you guys coming together on your own and making a list of things you want. Also, I want to point out, because my time's running short, this is the Mapping Your Future guide. This is what Melissa was talking about, and I'll let her talk more about this. This is what we call the felon phone book. Nobody with lived experience call it that, because we'll get offended. But this is the felon phone book. And with all the resources you have, this isn't a meeting for us to blame or say what McLean County isn't doing. This is a time for you guys to shine and put your resources in this guide and get copies of them for free. I'm offering all of you free books for free resources and articles and ways to get more resources. So Carol can follow up and give you all these things, but then you all know what each other is doing. And when you have these meetings, structure them with the 3 Ds, deliverables, desirables, and dates. What do you want to do in your county? I know what you want to do, Toy. We talk about it all the time. And you don't need that 501c3 to start building and getting money.
well, no, I'm agreeing with, but we decided to go this route. We could go that route, and we have many discussions as a board. So we decided to go this route. So thank you. We were going to go that route, but we decided to do this route. So I
But
appreciate
this,
that.
this is a free way for you guys to all know your services. Because like you guys are all even in the same area and learning about services you didn't know. Nobody knew Normal was going to be giving away feminine hygiene products. And that is super important. That's a great resource when somebody comes into probation and they've taken 3 buses from Normal to get to the probation office. And you guys already have a closet at probation with food. People don't even know that. Putting that in these things is how you're going to help your community more. But I just want to thank everybody for your time, because the fact that you're here shows that you want to grow and change and be more helpful. And trust me, this life is not great for people that don't have to sacrifice. Giving of yourself and giving resources is a lot of work. So I just want to thank everybody for even being here and taking the time to listen to me today.
Thank you. And that book is great. And we're very aware of that book. And so we're in the process of contacting our contact person at the U of I to get a lot of the information in there. So thank you so much, Heather. I appreciate that. Anyone else have a question for, oh, I think she hopped off. But anyway, does anybody have any announcements? So after our guest speaker, we like to have announcements to people to act if they got any announcements coming up, anything coming up they would like the council to know about.
I have an announcement. There is an event this Saturday from 10 to 1. It's the really free market. It's over at Miller Park near the train. It's a group of volunteers. They put this on once a month, and people can drop off anything that they don't want except furniture. They don't accept furniture. And you can take anything you want. So if you yourself could use anything, or you're trying to get rid of stuff, or you know anyone who could use it, I'll be set up there all day promoting Prairie State's resources, and we always get folks looking for record sealing or other legal support at Miller Park. So yeah, again, that event happens once a month, the third Saturday from 10 to 1 o'clock at Miller Park in the warmer months. So that'll go through, usually they will wrap up in the fall sometime. And if anyone else wants to table and share your resources, that would be a really great place to do it. Again, every month that I go, I always get at least a few people, if not a lot of people that are interested in resources.
Can you put that information in the chat if you have time, or send it to me and I can email it out later? Anyone else? Announcements?
Yeah, I'll give a quick announcement for the YW Strive program. We are now accepting applications for our next cohort. We have a tentative start date of June 26th. If you know people that need to do community service hours, or they're just interested in polishing up their professional development skills, they can contact us at YW Strive. In fact, I'm sorry, ywcamclean.org/strive. And I will put that in the chat.
Awesome. Thank you. Anyone else? Kevin, quickly, I don't know if you can or do you have, I don't know if Selena can. Can you speak to that program that's at the McLean County Health Department, like a walk-in center for people with mental health?
So you're talking about what used to formerly be the triage center, which was a walk-in crisis facility that has transitioned. It is now under the care of the McLean County Center for Human Services.
Okay.
And so I can't remember their exact hours right now off the top of my head. I can link them here in a second. They're actually bringing on some new folks here within this month, and hopefully we'll be at the 20 hours per day, 7 days per week mark that the triage center formerly had. And so that, again, is a walk-in crisis facility following the living room model. Anyone over the age of 18 can walk into there and receive services. And it's located in downtown Bloomington where that cell phone tower is at. So you really can't miss it. It's right there if you're coming in from the north to go into downtown Bloomington. It's very close to the center's other services. And so we're excited to see how that progresses.
Awesome. So I wasn't even aware of that. Thank you for
Yeah,
letting me know.
I will say it's been kind of, even though they took it over at January 1st of this year, it's been pretty much under the radar until they could get into their 20 per hour or 20 hours per day, 7 days per week arrangement. And you should expect to see a lot more marketing for that program in the next quarter, in the next few months. So you'll see billboards around town. There'll be digital billboards on veterans. There's a whole marketing plan that they've put together. I'd be happy to share some of that information as well. And we can even have the center come here and I can pick on some people from there to come and do a presentation as well, share some pictures and things like that. I'd love to provide more info on that, especially for this group.
Thank you so much. That's very important. Bethany?
I have their hours actually in front of me right now because I just talked to them.
Thank you.
They're open from 5 p.m. till 1 a.m. Monday through Friday. And then 1 p.m. till 9 p.m. on Sundays.
Yeah, so they were trying to fill that daytime spot. And I know they've got some folks coming out of graduate programs at ISU that are filling those up. There's been a little difficulty with hiring, especially case managers and crisis workers. And so I'm happy that they're going to get some quality folks in there.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Anyone else? Just FYI, just follow with housing. I was on the phone with Pastor Eddie Perkins with the House of Hope in Bloomington, Illinois. He has a house at I think it's 1002 North Roosevelt. It's a halfway house. He has beds available. I can send out have Kara send out an email with his flyer. Only thing he doesn't take is sex offenders, and I know that's one of the biggest things that population is this county is facing, is trying to find housing for people with sex offender background. Also too, Kim over at Oxford House, I can send out that information later. Oxford House has actually 4 houses here now. The one on McLean County, the one on McLean Street, I think it's 502 North McLean Street. I don't think this Oxford House is connected to that, or they either took it over, I'm not for sure. But
No,
they have
that's a
beds
separate
available.
entity.
Excuse me?
That one is a separate entity on its own.
Okay, yes. So I will send out an email and put Kim's information in there. She also too works with the Bloomington Township. A lot of guys come there. She understands they may not have any money. So I know they've sent 2 people from a couple of the prisons I work with that didn't have any money, and they was able to get some funding through Bloomington Township if they fit the criteria. So a lot of people that's coming home from prison or the county jail, I know they're giving them some grace in some aspect of trying to get them come housing, because they understand of people coming home that it's going to take 2 or 3 weeks to get monies coming in. Anyone else?
No.
Okay, well, I'm gonna give you guys back about 30 minutes. We usually go to about 2:30. I want to thank you guys for coming out, and I also want to thank you guys that referred people to our previous reentry picnic we had fair back on April 28th at Eastview on Union Street. We didn't have a great turnout, but we had the people that were there were supposed to be there. And so one of the most important thing is that agencies got to connect with each other. And so that was so important. So look ahead for our next event next year. Our goal is to try to move it in the middle of Bloomington, maybe Home Sweet Home parking lot or the Junction, either or. So that's one of the things we're going to look at to bring it to see if we can get more people to come out from the community. Like I said, you can email us at McLean County Reentry Council at gmail.com. If you have any questions or some things that you can help us to grow, or some things that you can add to us, or you can contact me directly at my email at toy.beasley@yahoo, phone number 309-310-3444. I know I've been talking to quite a few people on some things we can do, and we got some things that we're going to continue to push. And one of the things is that, how can we break those barriers for people that's coming home from prison? That being said, if no one has nothing else, I want to thank you, like I said, for coming on this afternoon, spending time with us today.
And
Hey,
don't
hey,
forget
Toy,
to
I
check-
do want to say something.
Yes.
I do want to say something real quick. I know you had asked me to share a little bit, and I didn't know
Yes.
if you were gonna
Go ahead.
call on me, or if no one had any other questions. But before we go quick, you guys, I just want to say this particular topic today, I know I mentioned earlier, really hits home with because we have been the father incarcerated, with my children having to come visit me, but I started as the child visiting his father. When I was 4 years old, that was the first time that I ever stepped foot onto a maximum security prison yard in Pontiac. And so I grew up, having picnics with my father on the yard with, sniper rifles. And I remember asking my mother, are those men gonna shoot us? And her, going through and getting patted down and, run
Your phone's
band
breaking
and
up.
all the things that our families get all through to come visit. We're go do that, but going through those facilities and the barbed wire fences and the rifles and the inmates, and the remarks that are said as they walk, places, it takes a toll mentally. And so I ended up, incarcerated. I was that statistic. And that's why this particular topic really hits home with me, and working my heart. I don't plan for my son or children to ever, have to see the inside of a prison facility or a jail, or a substance abuse facility. I believe children are embarrassed about that. I believe, having to explain that your mother or your father are in prison or in jail, and what that causes, it creates children to want to kind of shut down. And, they keep everything inside because it's just easier not to explain it. We hit it earlier, poverty, having a parent removed from the home, really, it creates a situation of poverty in a lot of American homes. And that in itself, just, escalates into, children at higher risk of mental health problems, higher risk of, unhealthy sexual relations, higher risk of drug, substance abuse issues. And so I hope that we revisit this topic often. And I hope, as the McLean County Reentry Council, when we do get our 501c and we are able to be a charitable event, I hope that, this particular topic and situation is something that we think of often in that area as well. And so I believe this is where the true combat of recidivism starts, with this particular topic. The agenda of mass incarceration was to break up homes and weaken a certain demographic of people. And so we have to now try to fight that and turn that around. And it starts right here with what we're talking about today, the kids and families and alternative solutions to punishment, or, prison, to keep families together and keep this community strong with our next generation.
Langston, I apologize. Thank you for sharing. I meant to have you share right after Heather shared, but we had got on talking about questions, so I apologize. And yes, you know, this is a very great topic that we need to continue to have, because like I said, it's going to take a whole family, not just one person that's have been just as impacted. It's going to take the whole family to come around to make sure that individual has been successful. So thank you. Anyone else? Langston, I think somebody asked for your email address. I think Michelle put it in the chat. So like I said, thank you all.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Rachel. I appreciate it. I will be talking to you more. I'm gonna bring Rachel on here in a few months down the line to talk about Project Odds and what she does. So I'm excited about that, because I really don't know what Project Odds really does. And I think it's important that I know ins and out, but it's important that we really know what they do. And then Kevin, if you can make your contact with the CHS on bringing them on, having them on in the near future to talk about that program, so we know
Not a problem.
exactly the ins and out. And thank you too for coming on. Happy Friday. Have a good weekend, everyone.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.